Welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka, and we are in the midst of our discussion, and this is in line with the forum on against violence against women, and it kicks off on the 25th. We have with us the president of the Sarvodaya Women's Movement, Dr. Sujata Vijayatilaka. Ma'am, we talked about like the community getting involved, like what you said earlier, that they start talking when they feel a sense of family and a sense of solidarity with other women in the community when regarding violence that has been done upon them and upon their children or their child. But what happens now when the community no longer can handle it, when authorities need to step in? How does the movement, Sarvodaya Women's Movement, help out in this regard?
We strongly believe that the community alone, the community support alone can't eliminate violence. To a great extent, community support can prevent or support the victim, but to really stop violence, stand up and stop it, there's at a higher level things have to be done. It's a law enforcement where the police have to be educated on the issue, and also the capacities have to be strengthened, their awareness, and also the strengthening of the women's desks in the police station. That's very important, because so many women have complained to us that when they go to the police station, their complaint is not recorded. They are told, go back home, it's a family, it's a private issue.
I was about to ask you that, because sadly that is the thinking, the mentality of people, that things that happen within a home is the problem of the family, and it can be resolved by the family. How is the response now from the years that you've been part of the movement, the response now of the authorities when it comes to domestic violence?
It's improving, because other organizations, especially organizations like Women in Need, have done training even for the law enforcement officers, and there's a lot of awareness created. And also with the UNFPA, I have worked with some of the women centers out in the field. There are 17 women centers set up by the UNFPA, and they have vigilant committees comprising of the law enforcement officers, the doctors, the nurses, the family health workers, the Grama Niladaris. So these are vigilant, the principal of the school, the religious leaders. So these committees stand up to fight against violence.
Well, Ma'am, from your experience for the years that you've been in the movement, is it easier now, or do you find more women now more vocal or more honest about how they're being treated at homes, and more willing to take that next step of stopping what is happening to them?
My personal experience is that the older generation is more vocal. I think they have passed that stage of fear and
the stigma of being separated or divorced.
But still a lot of work has to be done with the younger. There are lots of divorce, increase in divorce rates in the country, but that too, what I believe is mainly the more educated, the sophisticated people would go in for a divorce. But when it comes to the rural people, the more vulnerable village women, they have other issues to consider. Apart from just the stigma, the public opinion, they also have, depend on their husbands for their livelihood.
That's true.
So that's a major barrier, constraint.
The question, like, what will happen to me and my children?
The children especially. So they don't want to take a step out of the violence. There are one or two women that I have known who have got out of the home and walked into shelters and tried to work things out. But at the end of the day, most of them go back. When they are the feelings of sadness, their temper, that subsides, they decide to go back home. A bit of love also, I think,
I feel
to the perpetrator.
Some are also a bit of guilt that you have destroyed the family.
Exactly.
So ma'am, when you go for these meetings and you see these women sadly have been physically or worse emotionally, because what I hear so far is the physical abuse is not that common. It's more like the emotional, the psychological abuse, which doesn't leave physical marks. How do you address the situation, and what do you normally tell them first?
To be very honest, when most people talk about abuse or violence, they think it's only physical abuse, because that's the one that you face
and
you see others see, and the emotional abuse, you just bear it up as long as possible till you come to a real breaking down point when there's your confidence is very low. That's the time you seek help. And also some even threaten suicide, threaten to run away, and some actually commit suicide. So it's at that when it comes to such a bad point that they would talk about it.
When you see this, when you see the meeting happen, how does it go about? How long are these meetings that you have at Moratua, and what normal is the atmosphere? Do they immediately identify themselves, or they just, some of them quietly just listen?
Most of them quietly listen. But now Sarvodaya has another sort of a unique experience. It's not the women's movement, but there's another unit called Vishwa Niketan, which is a meditation center. And they start with the young couples. They have programs for prisoners and different school children, different groups. But when it comes to family and family peace in the family, conflict resolution, they deal with the young mothers and fathers. They start with the pregnant women. And the partner also comes along. So they discuss the causes of violence, the impact of it, the impact on the unborn baby. So that really rings a bell in the father's mind.
How is that received by people in the community, especially the rural community?
It's very welcome.
How about the men?
And a lot of young men are coming for these programs.
So this is like a preemptive,
because it's the baby. So the concern, even for the father, you know, it's my baby. And when it's put it in that manner, that violent free home will be the best for your baby. So that I think carries a good message.
So that is happening in most of the rural areas, or also like urban?
They come the members or anybody else even. It's open to the public. People can come to those meetings and meditation programs.
For those watching right now who may know someone or who could be suffering abuse at home, how do they go about? How do they join the meeting? If there is a number to call or a place they can come
they
for?
Could contact the main Sarvodaya, the head office number.
That is
264-7159.
264-7159.
That's the main Sarvodaya head office number, and then discuss with them how can we join the meditation program.
But if we were to ask you for one advice that you can give women watching right now on on self-confidence, and how, because I'm one of those who believe that we were not born to hate, or to be prejudiced, or to be violent. We learn that, sadly, and sometimes sadly it's from the mothers who particularly give importance to the son than the daughter. The valuing the different values.
The son preference
more than the daughter. The daughter's less educated, less given the future. So what can you tell like women watching right now?
In Sri Lanka, when it comes to education, there's no discrimination. Because it's almost 100% enrollment, whether it's a daughter or a son, or children are sent to school. So education wise, there's no discrimination. And even when it comes to health, because I have worked in countries like Nepal, where if there's a choice between a sick son and a sick daughter, it's the son who is taken to hospital for treatment and not the daughter. But in Sri Lanka, it's not happening, because health services are free and easily accessible. So that difference is also not there. The differences come when it's like more control of mobility, the dress code and things like that. These differences, the gender differences are seen.
But your last word that you can tell our viewers about the organization before we let you go, ma'am.
Yeah, I think also it's important to another program that Sarvodaya is having is Ma Sevana, which is a home for unwed mothers, teenage mothers, mainly incest cases, and of course they are sent by the that's one of the hardest.
Yeah, hardest
really, and that's. The court sends them. Sarvodaya doesn't just take. It's from the court they are sent to the Ma Sevana. So there are homes like that also, and Sarvodaya has stepped in to support these children. They are like 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and they had been abused by their fathers, brothers,
bore the fruit of the abuse.
And there are lots of little babies around, and it's very sad.
It's hard to listen to the age 13, 15 abused by someone.
And it's so sad when you go there. You could see these young mothers,
babies with babies,
and they leave the baby and they go and there's hopscotch. They're playing hopscotch.
Okay, so a lot of
it's a sad situation.
For those watching right now, I think you guys can also help out just in case you would like. The Sarvodaya's women's movement number is 264-7159. That's 264-7159. If you need help or if you can help, I think you should call the number 264-7159. Ma'am, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you very much,
and all the best. And we hope to see you back again. And well, we come back. Of course, today kicks off a wonderful edition of Sri Lanka Design Festival. We'll have some designers inside the studio after this.
Okay, thanks.